I want to welcome all of you officially now to what we're calling the Empowerment Hour. If you just jumped into the room, you haven't missed too much yet. We're about to get started here. My name is Dave Rosendahl, and I am thrilled that you're joining us for this exclusive event. One of the reasons why I'm chatting with you here as we go through the warm-up here and get into the event is that you are more than just attendees today. You're part of an elite group, an invite-only group of direct mail defenders that are gathering here today to tackle what's arguably the most pressing challenge that our industry faces. And we're going to go into kind of a no-holds-barred discussion on combating the relentless postage rate hikes that we've all experienced over the last few years. And let me tell you, we've got some heavy hitters on stage today. In one corner, I'm going to introduce him shortly, the Honorable Kevin Yoder, a former four-term U.S. Congressman who's now leading the charge at an organization called Keep Us Posted. I'll tell you more about them in just a moment. In the other corner, we've got Gerry Klug, a direct mail veteran with over 37 years of experience representing Sylvamo. I'm going to formally introduce them here in just a moment, but first, my job as the moderator today is to foster a conversation that empowers you with actionable strategies that you can use for your business and that we can use for the industry as a whole. So as I'm engaging with Kevin and Gerry, you also have a job to do. And what I want you to do is I want you to open up the chat right now in Zoom. You should see it at the bottom of your user interface there. And I want you to be engaging with us. I want you to be talking to us as we are moving into the material today. Your real-time input is going to make this conversation even richer, more valuable for you and more valuable for everyone else that's here. So don't hold back. Let's all work together to make this the most informative event that we've attended this year. And please do your part in the conversation. So if everyone can do that, this is an all play right now. I want everybody to open up the Zoom chat and type yes. Drop a yes in the chat if you're ready to participate. Give me a yes there in the chat. I see yes from Kim, yes from David, Catherine, Deborah. Holy cow, it's coming in fast now, folks. You can see everyone is ready here to get started. That's great. Thank you. Keep the yeses coming in. Speaking of being all in, two other quick things I want you to know about. If you stick around to the end of today's session, you're going to get two things from us here. One is we're going to be sharing exclusive resources and tools that you can use, not just theory, but practical, actionable ways that you can get engaged and start to get involved now to help with this important issue. So that's number one. But also, if you stick around to the end, the Sylvamo team has announced that they are going to give away to 10 lucky winners this personalized, customized stationery set that you should see here on the screen next to me now, okay? So it's going to have your name on it. We're going to pick 10 lucky winners who are here at the end of the event, and 10 lucky folks will walk away with the right to one of these incredible stationery sets. So who wants one of those? Let me know there in the chat. Let me know if you want a stationery set, and we will get you entered there into the raffle today. All right. So now, my friends, let me introduce Gerry and Kevin. I'm going to start with Gerry. And as I mentioned a moment ago, he is a veteran of our industry, paper and printing. And over his experience, he's seen everything from distribution to manufacturing and has worked in many aspects of our industry, commercial printing, specialty papers, and so on. As the sales director for converting and printing papers at Sylvamo, he's at the forefront of the challenges that we're talking about today. He's also involved in our professional community. I know that he serves on the National Paper Trade Association's board of directors and other nonprofit boards. So Gerry, welcome to our virtual stage. Before we dive into the heavy stuff, why don't you say hello to everyone and maybe share one thing about yourself that most people in the industry might not know about you.
Sure, happy to do it, David. Good morning, everyone. Glad everyone's here. Number of different options on what people don't know about me, but given the crowd, I think I'll go with the following. So I started out of college coaching a college lacrosse program while I was in the fitness field, so I did not start in the paper industry to begin with. And if anybody's looking for someone who needs a minister for a wedding or a heck of a bartender at a party, I am your guy. So
Wow.
Pretty varied background, and glad to be here and happy to participate.
So have you ever ministered and done the bar for one event, same event?
I'm going to one over the holiday weekend, and that could turn into that way. I'll let you guys know how that goes.
A man of many talents. Thank you, Gerry. Thanks for being here. All right, next up is Kevin. I want to introduce to you Kevin Yoder. He's a man on a mission to save our postal system. And as I mentioned, he is a former four-term congressman who has traded the halls of the House for the front lines of postal reform. And during his time in Congress, he was right in the thick of postal issues, serving on the powerful House Appropriations Committee, and now as the executive director of Keep Us Posted, he's taking that insider knowledge and putting it to work for us. And in case you're not familiar with Keep Us Posted, you're going to learn more about them today, but they are a coalition of consumers, businesses, and organizations who all believe in one thing, that a reliable and affordable U.S. Postal Service is crucial to our way of life. So he's out there every day working with USPS executives, members of Congress, and other policymakers to fight for fair postage rates and improved mail delivery. So Kevin, thank you for being here with us today. And I'm very, very curious. You've gone from Congress to leading a postal advocacy group, which is a fascinating journey. I'm wondering, though, if you can give us a sense for maybe, was there a seminal experience or some personal interaction that you had during your time in Washington that opened your eyes to the importance of postal issues? How did that happen?
Yeah, thanks, David. Good to be on with you and all the folks across the country. I served in Congress for 8 years representing the suburbs of Kansas City. And before that, I actually served for 8 years in the State House in Kansas, in Topeka, representing a similar area. So I had a long history of public service. And, certainly like many people on this call, everyone on this call, care about our country, care about the government that deliver services to the American people. I always wanted to see it to be lean and efficient, and but also to deliver for folks. And so, I harken back to my days. I grew up on a farm in rural Kansas. I don't know if we have any other farm kids in this group here, but grew up on a farm, and for us, our address was rural Route 2, right? So when you're out in rural America, the Postal Service is kind of a lifeline. And so we relied on that. It was a critical service to, our livelihood. And so I always had a respect for the post service. We always knew our postman growing up. Always had a respect for what they do. And when I got into public service, eventually landed in the U.S. House and Congress. One of our local industries in Kansas City is Hallmark, is based here. And so we knew that the jobs it was creating, the economic opportunity it was building. And we also knew that it reached, Hallmark is such an iconic brand. It was reaching people all across the country. And we looked at what Congress was doing on it, and they were sort of not, I think, putting the emphasis that it needed to on retaining and keeping a strong postal service. So one of the issues that came up early on was this issue of, should we keep the mail going for 6 days, or should it be a 5-day mail service? Maybe roll it down to 4 days, 3 days. And what we realize is if we start delivering the mail less and reducing services to people, they're going to use the mail less, and it's going to eventually lead to the mail service sort of being eliminated and no longer useful to the American people. So my goal was, let's keep this strong, let's keep it vibrant, let's keep it useful for the American people. Let's make sure it is a service that people can rely on. And so I fought those battles when I was in Congress. And when I left Congress, we saw what was happening with the current postal policies and the rate increases, which I know we'll get to, and sort of all the delivery issues. And we said, we got to take action. So we decided to put the skills we had to use, the things I learned over my years as a congressman and a state legislator, to build a coalition and build kind of a campaign to renew Congress's belief in the mail service, the postal, the USPS's work for the American people. And to do that, we need to build this new group. And so we call it Keep Us Posted, and we can kind of dive into more on that in this call. But that's an opportunity to unify the postal world, consumers, everyone, in sort of one group to solve these problems.
That's fantastic. Thank you for doing that. I know I speak on behalf of the audience here that this is for any of us involved in mail, whether it be, the production of mail or servicing it in some way or employing direct mail, this is a serious issue. And so we appreciate your efforts there. And certainly we're going to get into more of Keep Us Posted and what you're doing for the industry. But Gerry, let me come over to you for a moment here. On behalf of the audience today, first of all, I want to say thank you to you and the Sylvamo team for sponsoring the event today. So we appreciate that. But my first question for you is to get to know Sylvamo a little bit better, so that everyone here has a better feel for your company's background. And in specific, I want to know this: in your role there at Sylvamo, why is postal reform and the issues that we're talking about today a priority for Sylvamo and your clients?
Yeah, sure, Dave, and happy to sponsor this. This is a time well spent, and something that's very important to all of us. So just giving a background on Sylvamo, right? We're a US-based global uncoated free sheet company. Got a very wide variety of top-tiered brands, and we've got large-scale production across the globe in Latin America, Europe, and here in North America. We're headquartered here in Memphis, Tennessee. We've got over 6,500 global employees, so a lot of people tied to this. And specifically in the U.S., we have 1,800 colleagues across our manufacturing base and here in Memphis. We are the second largest uncoated free sheet producer in North America, and we produce and sell copy paper, commercial printing grades, converting, and specialty papers. We've got a very strong portfolio of iconic brands, including Accent Opaque, Hammermill, Spring Hill, Williamsburg, and we are the global supplier for HP papers. But as we'll talk about a little further into the conversation here, about a third of every sheet of paper that runs through the U.S. Postal Service is Sylvamos. So we are heavily tied to the Postal Service, the health and success of the Postal Service going forward, and we're committed to this in a big way.
That's fantastic. Yeah, we'll dive more into that in a moment. Kevin, it's an honor to be able to speak to you, and I'm intrigued at your story in terms of, take us a little bit further into what was going on in your head as you exited Congress and started thinking about creating Keep Us Posted. What were you thinking about at that time, and how did it come together?
Leaving Congress, I wanted to stay involved in issues. I wanted to be still engaged in stuff that I cared about. So I set up a sort of consulting business. Some colleagues, we run that out of Washington, D.C. It's called Venture Government Strategies. We're there at 6th and Penn, a few blocks from the U.S. Capitol. I live in Kansas City with my young family. I've got 2 young girls, and so I just do the commute each week, which is what I did in Congress as well. And so kind of setting up that business, started focusing on what are the issues we want to work on, what are the types of clients we want to represent. And, one of the ideas is to get involved in this issue because we knew we could make a difference in the experiences that I had. Our real purpose in setting it up was we saw that in the postal industry and in its interaction with the Board of Governors, that the mailing community really wasn't having their voices heard by the folks that were making policy, that they were, under the current postmaster and the Board of Governors, essentially just building this, what we're going to go into later, this Delivering for America plan without real interaction with the folks that are actually creating the mail and the customers that put, tens of millions of pieces of mail in this. Mm-hmm. They're being sort of ignored and don't have a seat at the table. So we wanted them to speak with a stronger voice, a louder voice. We thought that sort of my resume or my title would also give us the ability to elevate our thoughts as well. So I could kind of be a spokesman for that industry. So I've gone on a lot of news programs. We've gone on cable news and satellite radio, and we're in a ton of articles. And we bolted on a PR and media team, a company called Rebel Communication, and they lead our communication efforts. And we wanted to make it consumer facing. So we know the folks on this call, many of which work in postal industry, are seeing the negative impacts of postal policy. So we know that they need to be given calls to action, ways in which they can engage and speak to the people making policy. Like, we want to unify them, give them organized efforts and messages that we can speak behind. But we also wanted this to be consumer facing, right? The hundreds of Americans who use the mail service every day, who many of whom depend on it for financial documents, for medicine, for critical pieces of mail, as well as getting their catalog, getting the things they want, getting that greeting card that they're looking for. My daughter was just at camp, right? So 10-year-old daughter, she went to camp for the first time, and we were critically waiting on those postcards to come in the mail to describe what her experience was like at camp, right? And so she wasn't allowed to have a cell phone or any sort of digital communication with us, right? We only had the mail to be able to speak to her. And it's a reminder of how much we care and still utilize the mail. As much as it's kind of thought of as an afterthought in the country, I think the American people, we sort of take it for granted. Like, it's always going to be there. It's always been there. It always delivers for us. We now know that's not the case. And so, I think reminding the American people of the value of mail, and then having to be able to use their voices to carry that message to Congress, to give them the opportunity to express that. So we've built this database of tens of thousands of Americans that we communicate through our Facebook page, through email, and give them calls to action. These are, middle American families that are upset about the way the Postal Service is being run, but don't know what to do about it. And so along comes the Keep Us Posted to engage with them, connect them, give them the tools that they can utilize to be able to speak to the USPS, to the regulator, to Congress, to ask them to make the changes in policy that need to be made to rewrite the ship here.
So tell me about the member organizations. I'm bringing some of those logos up here on the screen. I know that you bring together a variety of folks in the industry in addition to the consumer kind of grassroots, bottoms-up approach. Tell me about the folks that are members here.
Yeah, that's right. So first of all, Sylvamo is a key cornerstone member of what we're doing, and we're really appreciative of their engagement. And we have paper companies, envelope companies. I mentioned Hallmark earlier as a company. We have folks like the Rural Newspaper folks, the American Catalog Association, EMA, the envelope manufacturers, AF&PA, the American Forest and Paper Association. So we have associations engaged. We have companies engaged. We have small little companies folks may have never heard of, all the way to, big, large brands. And, one of the things we'll talk about later on this call is how your company can be involved. Because ultimately, as you all know, many of you probably aren't involved in politics every day. Many of you may have never even gone to Washington or sat down in a room to try to talk to your member of Congress. But we're fighting for a sort of airtime. Essentially, we're fighting for agenda time in Congress. So being able to unify all of us under one umbrella and sort of crowdsource the investment in public service engagement in that work allows us to speak with a louder, stronger voice and be more effective. If we're 100 different companies and out there sort of not knowing what to do, or sending in our own letter, but we can sort of organize all that, and we need support and help from folks. And we'll talk about that later in the call. But the companies that you put up there are all ones that we've met with and in some cases recruited to be involved. In some cases, they came to us and said, we're getting killed out here. These rate increases are killing volume. We got to do something, and we want to help. And so we're sort of that outlet for folks that want to help and they want to pitch in. And as the old saying is, many hands make light work. If we can kind of crowdsource this work, and then I can really sort of lead the charge and bring a cohesive message to try to solve these problems.
So, Gerry, I know that Sylvamo is a member of Keep Us Posted, as Kevin just said. So help me understand what you saw in the movement and why Sylvamo has joined the organization.
We're happy to. And I'll throw a couple of statistics at this as we go through it. But as Kevin talked about, the USPS, or U.S. Postal Service, obviously vital service relied by people across the country, right? But think about some of these statistics. In fiscal year 2023, the USPS delivered 116 billion, that's right, billion pieces of mail. That's incredible. The USPS is also a very, very important employer. So bear with me, I've got to read this directly or I will get this incorrectly. The 2023 Envelope Manufacturers Association Mailing Economic Job and Revenue Study, which was conducted by Sylvamo's own Cheryl Chapman, showed the U.S. mailing industry has 7.9 million jobs in the U.S., which represents about 5% of the nation's total civilian workforce. The mailing industry influences every private and public sector of the economy and provides jobs across every state and congressional district. We talked a little bit earlier about why Sylvamo, right? A third of what we produce goes through the mail stream at any period of time. And our customers, who are a very cross-section of businesses, provide paper billing statements, ballots, pension, retirement statements, and other critical information along with the envelope that goes through the mail stream on. So we are in full support at Sylvamo of policies that allow the USPS to meet the service needs of customers, but more importantly, postal rates that are predictable and affordable to mailers. We are very concerned about the unprecedented amount and speed at which these rates, the postal rates, are going, increasing over the past few years, and the negative effects, to Kevin's point, that it has had on both mailers and paper manufacturers. Mailers are now being hit twice annually above increases, above already very high inflation rates, which is leading to significant volume loss wherever you are in that chain of communication. Currently, the 1 ounce letter postal rate, which is 68 cents, is going to 73 cents on July 14th. The big news around that, though, is that's a 33% increase since 2021. That's a massive, massive number. So at Sylvamo, we believe to protect our business and more importantly, our customers' businesses, we've got to work with Congress, the USPS, Board of Governors, and the Postal Regulatory Commission to limit rate increases moving forward. Frankly, keep us posted is one of the best tools and opportunities to do that.
Kevin, I've been part of the mailing industry for a while, here in my work at Mindfire and working with organizations of all different shapes and sizes who rely on mail. But I have to admit that even for me as a quasi-insider, understanding how the USPS works as an organization is confusing. So for my sake, and maybe anyone else who here that's maybe in that same boat, kind of a two-part question. First, at a high level, how is the USPS structurally designed as an organization? And second, the rate increases that Gerry just mentioned, how are those determined?
Yeah, great question. And I think understanding the structure is critical for our ability to understand how to impact the policymaking part of this, right? And so, Congress has a role. The USPS is managed by a board of governors. There's a regulator. I'll just kind of walk through some of that, right? So we all know there's a postmaster. The current postmaster's name is probably known more than other postmasters' names have been known in the past. Louis DeJoy, many of you may follow his leadership. He's responsible for managing and directing the day-to-day operations of the agency.
Yep.
On the PMG, he's selected and appointed by the Board of Governors of the Postal Service. He does not serve at the president's pleasure and can only be dismissed or hired by the Board of Governors. So the appointment of PMG is not done by the president or by the Senate. It's ultimately a Board of Governors decision. The USPS is operated by that 11-person Board of Governors. So you have 9 Board of Governors who are appointed by the president, right? And so the postmaster and his deputy, and then the 9 governors make up the 11 people that manage the Board of Governors. The governors are appointed by the president and approved by the Senate for 7-year terms. The board directs, establishes policies, basic objectives, and long-range goals of the Postal Service. There's a separate entity called the Postal Regulatory Commission, which we call the PRC. And it's an independent federal agency that has 5 members on it, and they provide the transparency and the accountability for the Postal Service's operations, including oversight over rates and those types of things. Postal rate changes then are proposed by the Postal Service, the Board of Governors, and the Postmaster. The Board of Governors approves them, and then the proposal goes to the regulator, the PRC, who officially approves them. And that's how the process works. Congress doesn't set the rates. Congress doesn't usually meddle in the rates, which has kind of been a little bit tricky because Congress is starting to get upset with the direction of the Postal Service, but then they traditionally haven't kind of weighed in and passed policies in that. In the past, the USPS sort of set modest price increases tied to the Consumer Price Index, the CPI, right? But the changes we've seen in recent years, prices have been going up way higher than CPI, way higher than inflation. And in 2020, they had adopted new rules based on that pricing authority, which allows the agency to continue annual inflation-based increases, but also include a density factor, other factors which now represent the ability for them to go higher than that. And so we're seeing these 7, 8, 9, and for some categories, double-digit increases on rates. As Gerry mentioned and laid out, right, the first class stamp in July will then, if the Board of Governors, makes their final approval, will go up to 73 cents. And it's a little bit like, sort of boiling a frog. You go up 3 cents here and 5 cents here. They're doing it twice a year, which is without precedent. I think that's only happened one other time in the Postal Service's history. They're doing these twice a year rate increases, which we know creates tremendous instability in industry because you're always adjusting your budgets. You're always adjusting, how you're calculating all of this. So the frequency is a huge factor for industry. And then the amount is also a huge problem. And so going to 73, and look, this will be their projection is that if the postmaster uses all the authority that he's been given, that they'll be close to $1.20 by the end of a decade. And so when you start thinking about those bright line things, like, we were just at 50 cents a few years ago, to be at $1.20, what all that's going to do is drive mail out of the system. And we can talk about sort of volume specifically, but these rate increases that are coming so fast, so frequent, and at such amounts much higher than inflation has led to a real crisis in terms of postal customers.
Yeah, I see my friend John here saying that the frogs are getting smarter. They're jumping off the log when they get too warm. Yep, John. And Betsy, I want to bring your voice in. Betsy's saying, and this leads to my next question here for Kevin, that DeJoy's prediction of decreasing mail volumes is actually a self-fulfilling prophecy driven by increasing postal rates. I work for a nonprofit, and those rate increases are decreasing our reach, yes, resulting in lower fundraising. The promos, the postage promos, are not useful for planning as our mail schedule is completely unrelated to corporate. So, Kevin, that brings me to my next question here. If I'm understanding correctly how the density factor works and how the process works that you just laid out, in my simple little mind here, it feels like there's an infinite loop problem here for my, nerdy programming friends out there, in the sense that what you're saying is when the postage rate increases, this leads to folks sending less mail, which then, because of the density factor, justifies the even higher rate, which then leads to even lower mail volume. So that the process seems to repeat ad infinitum. And I'm just wondering, what's the end game here? What's the assumption that DeJoy's strategy makes? Are they suggesting that at some point we'll reach an equilibrium, or is there something else that they have in mind? Help us understand how you see this playing out.
Another way to describe it would be a downward spiral, right? And we can all understand that we're in business. You all are running different businesses, and as we all know, and it's a maxim of any company. If you increase rates, people may buy less of what you're selling, right? And so they predicted, to, I think the point you said, somebody made in the chat, they predicted that volume was going to go down by 40% over a decade, but it appears as if they're trying to drive it towards their predictions becoming true, as opposed to say, we have concerns that volume is going downward and we want to figure out how to get volume back up. They essentially sort of baked in the idea that, look, volume is going to go down, so what they're doing on rates doesn't really make a difference. And the reality is it's driving volume down in unprecedented ways. We actually saw volume go up prior to this entire catastrophe. During COVID, volume actually went up because people were home. They were mailing more things, or more packages. So there were certainly COVID-related reasons for that. But people also craved real. And I think there's this baked-in assumption amongst the USPS that it's a dying industry and that they're essentially going to squeeze as much as they can out of the turnip before the frogs are all gone, to mix multiple metaphors here, and just not worry about volume and just keep pushing the rates up on the ever diminishing set of volume. But the reality is that people actually want to send mail. They want to get cards. They want to mail, but they're being priced out of it. And I think it's Betsy talking about the nonprofit world. We know, in talking to nonprofit companies, and we have nonprofit associations involved in Keep Us Posted. We have companies like More involved as well. We know from them that a lot of that prospecting mail on the nonprofit side is being cut out right now. And that in the nonprofit world in particular, it's just a great example to exemplify this fact. You can't raise money with email like you can with mail. We all get the March of Dimes mail and the other solicitations. That's very effective. A random email you get saying give to charity, it just doesn't work. And so these charities live and die based on whether they're going to get financial support from regular Americans, right? The March of Dimes, those types of things, little small contributions. And to do that, they've got to have a mass mailing system. And when rates go up as fast as they're going up, they're pricing people out of the market. So DeJoy, I think, assumes people want to leave to go to digital. That's their preference. Everyone wants to digitize. The reality is we talk to many companies and customers that want to send mail. They want to send more mail. It's their preferred method, but they're being priced out of it. They're being forced out. So it's not as if this is a natural attrition. I just think the volume issue is a really critical part of this conversation, because is this we're sort of a fait accompli on it, and we're forcing ourselves into all these volume losses with these rate increases. And to your point, David, ultimately what that means is rates are going to have to go up higher and higher and higher to make up for the loss of volume.
Yep. I see Betsy here saying she loves your quote there, Kevin. You can't raise money by email like you can with direct mail. Absolutely. And I want to know from the audience here, do you think our industry is a dying industry? Do you think direct mail is dead and it's a vestige of the past? Let me know there in the chat. I want to know how everyone's feeling about direct mail in real time here. Let us know in the chat. Kevin, I was recently at the National Postal Forum, which is all things mailing and packaging, and I consistently heard these two issues that we're talking about. One being, of course, the postage rate increases, but also issues with mail delivery times. The amount of time that it's taking for mail in certain areas to get to the destination. And so what I was hearing is people were saying, look, in the Delivering for America plan, which you've touched on there briefly, we had a different set of outcomes that were kind of promised there or hoped for, but the results that we're seeing aren't jiving with that necessarily. What's your take on that?
Yeah, so just a sort of one-on-one on that. So the Postmaster DeJoy rolled out with a 10-year strategic plan back in 2021 called the Delivering for America Plan. And this plan wasn't sort of really built with um, industry involvement, industry input, customer engagement. It sort of was thrust upon them, and there were a lot of changes in there and things that we're seeing the results of now. But the basic premises of it was that it's going to cause the Postal Service to run in the black, that it's going to make it solvent, and successful in the future. And it's really done anything but that. And we're now hearing members of Congress and leaders, and certainly Keep Us Posted, saying, hey, this Delivering for America plan that's now, in its third, fourth year is not working. And it needs to be reworked. It needs to be completely revamped. It is failing. And the proof's in the pudding, right? So in 2022, there was a loss of close to $1 billion. Last year, the Postal Service lost over $6 billion. They projected to lose over $6 billion this year. So the losses are mounting, and they were supposed to be in the black. They predicted by now, as of last year and this year, that they would be running in the black. And volume is part of the problem, but also they haven't reduced cost. What they have done is two things that have actually made their problems worse, which is the rate problem, rate frequency and amount, which we talked about. And they've also reduced services. And so that was part of your question there, David. A first class letter used to be on time. If it was delivered between 1 and 3 days, you used to be able to drop a letter in the mail and you could get it to, I'm in Kansas City, you get a letter to Chicago in a day, right? Now they're saying it's 3 to 5 days is considered on time. And so when you go from 1 to 5 days in that stretch, you're really reducing the reliability of the mail and the interest in customers using it. And they also give themselves actually a grace day, I think a 6th day before it's even considered late. So you're looking at like a week before a letter is considered late. And it's become a little bit of a punchline, I think, amongst American people, where people say, well, I don't know if I put it in the mail. You don't know when it's going to get there. You don't know if it's going to be delivered. And that's such a sad thing, because I think we all grew up with, we all know about this historic postal service, which was the most trusted institution for the American people. It was that reliable institution that everyone believed, the whole rain, sleet, or snow, it had this cultural belief system that they deliver, right? One thing's for certain, mail service gets their job done. And it's not for, I think, a lack of effort on, the civil servants. I think the management of this entire thing has created all this chaos and closing of certain facilities and the network and all this stuff. And so at the end of the day, David, we have a scenario where if you're a customer, your rates are going up and your services are going down. Yeah. And costs are going up as well. So think about your businesses out there. For those who manage departments or, understand business, if you can't control cost and you deliver a lower service, let's say you're a paper company, you say, instead of a week to get your paper, we're going to say 3 weeks, and we're going to double the rate. And by the way, we just hired a ton of new people to deliver this paper to you, but it's not going to get there on time, and it may never get delivered at all. You're just going to kill your customer base. And so if you can't control cost while delivering a slower service, an unreliable service, and you're raising rates, it's obvious what's going to happen here.
Yep. I see a great question from Joe Marie. It's great to see you, Joe Marie. And it leads to my next question that I have for you here, Kevin. Joe Marie is asking, is Keep Us Posted involved in helping draft the American Privacy Rights Act? It's written incorrectly, which I hear from many in the industry. Targeted direct mail could become illegal. With no targeting, direct mail acquisition is going to fail. So tell us, Kevin, specifically then through Keep Us Posted, what specifically are you doing in order to help remediate these issues and make change happen?
Yeah, and listen, we have not weighed in on the Privacy Rights Act yet, and that's certainly something we could work with folks on the call who are interested in and work with our members to develop a position. We've been so focused on the rates issue. And the first thing we did, and probably worth mentioning as part of this whole conversation about what we do at Keep Us Posted and how we make a difference is one of the first things we worked on was the Postal Reform Act that passed back in 2022, and that it had been decades, 15 plus years since the Congress had passed any sort of reform, and there was a ton of liability and unnecessary costs that the Postal Service was facing. And so we were able to pass the Postal Service Reform Act, called the PSRA, and it relieved the Postal Service of $107 billion in past due and future obligations. And the idea was, let's get these obligations off the books. Let's restructure some things. Let's help the Postal Service be more nimble. And that will take pressure off the rates. That will take pressure off of these other draconian solutions that are hurting the Postal Service. And essentially, the USPS took the money, took the savings, and just barreled down the same path with the same bad policies and ignored the impact of those savings should have had on those problems. And so what Keep Us Posted did in that process is we drove American comments to Capitol Hill to speak in favor of that legislation. I think in the month of February that year alone, February 2022, this is our kind of first year in existence, we drove 17,000 emails, letters, and calls to Capitol Hill. And so we're giving folks the tools to engage on that legislation. I know, David, you just had some sort of link up there in terms of,
Yep.
there in terms of kind of how we're doing it. We have congressional advocacy. You can engage on social media. We have letters being written to the Postal Regulatory Commission. We have letters being written to the Board of Governors. We have portals open where you can communicate and click a link. And one of the things you all can do on this call now, even if you want to see how we're doing that, and absolutely can talk about the Champions event too, one of the things we've been doing is building congressional champions, creating leaders, working with leaders who care about Postal and giving them the tools and helping them be better advocates for us. We want to build congressional champions. So the slide there is an event we did for two of our leaders this year. One of them was Congressman Jake LaTurner, a Republican, and the other one was Congressman Manuel Cleaver, a Democrat. And one of the things we did is give them an award, and the award was essentially a stamp, a mock-up of a stamp with their likeness on it, with their face on it. And one thing I know as a former member of Congress, if you give a congressman an award with their face on it, they're never going to throw it away. And so they hang these in their offices. And so we're trying to build champions to fight for us in Congress. That's one of our key activities we've done there. We're also doing really interesting events on Capitol Hill. We can talk about this Mother's Day greeting card event that we just had in the month of May, in which we brought greeting cards from companies all across the country, a dozen or so companies, and had them available for staff and members of Congress to come down and utilize. And this is really interesting, David, because one of the things we learned from this event is this sort of concept out there that young people won't use the mail service was completely flipped on its head, because we had I think, hundreds and hundreds of congressional staff come down to get a Mother's Day greeting card, many of whom had never sent a greeting card before in their life, most, and certainly not a Mother's Day. Oh, yeah. We had folks we were working with on where to put the stamp, where to write the to for them. Someone asked us, how do you seal this envelope, right? How do you, but that's sort of kind of tongue in cheek, but many of them were like, this is great. And they were filling it out and they're sending this card. And it's a little bit of a microcosm example of how the mail service has a bright future. This was an exciting thing. This was better than sending a tweet or, texting or, sending hey, happy Mother's Day text. They were sending a real neat card to show that. And so these are the events we're trying to do on Capitol Hill to tell the value of mail story, to create activity and engagement so that we can create the policy solutions we need. You've highlighted there our media work. So with Revel Communication, Beth Dozier's our lead there. We communicate with the press, and you can see about this July rate increase. We've been talking to and putting quotes in CBS and the Washington Times and Axios, and so it says 60 different articles featuring keep us posted. Many times we're going to the media and we're saying, do you realize what's happening here? Do you understand what these rate increases are doing? And sending them quotes about how it's hurting customers, it's hurting companies, it's killing jobs. It's creating this death of the Postal Service and waking America up to that. And so these kind of communication ways where we're talking to the press, we're talking to Capitol Hill, and we're engaging the public and doing that is the sort of new stuff that Keep Us Posted brought. There have been folks lobbying on postal issues for decades, forever, but trying to create new ways to engage people has been sort of, I think, our special sauce.
So, Kevin, I want to give folks an opportunity to express, their interest in maybe joining the movement and working with you and your team to forward the cause here. So, folks, I'm going to throw up a poll here on the screen, and I want you to take a look there. Would you like to get involved and help Kevin and his team and the industry on the whole tackle this important issue. So if your company is ready to help and you would like to know how to do that, select the first option. If you want to be kept apprised as an individual of the news and the updates that come out of the organization there, let us know there in the second option. And then if perhaps it's not the right time for you there's the third option there as well. So Kevin, I'll give you a few moments just to talk about, as folks get invested and begin to help you and the organization, what are the kinds of things that you're going to start to help them do and learn?
Yeah, and let me say, first of all, folks, you can go to the Keep Us Posted website right now, keepusposted.org. You can click Get Involved. You can take action right now while we're on this call. You can send a message to Congress. You can get right involved in the action campaign there. We'll get you in our email list. We'll keep you posted. We send out frequent calls to action about what's going on, how you can be involved. Every little message, every little email, every letter makes a difference. And ideally, you can share that then with your colleagues and your coworkers and say, hey, I was on this really interesting call about, we are here at the company a lot concerned about these policies. We don't have a lobbyist. We don't want to know what to do. And so we can give you those tools to share with your colleagues, and that sort of crowdsourcing and that sort of viral nature of what we're doing really gives us the emphasis to make Congress and the Board of Governors and the Postal Regulatory Commission feel the pressure of the American people to make them change their policies, give them that feedback that they need to get. Right now we're working on sort of 3 specific campaigns, and there are 3 ways in which folks can help. And I think you might have a slide on that there as well, David. One of them is the Board of Governors is getting ready to finalize the next postage increase next week, I believe. And so we've been asking people to send letters. And so asking the USPS Board of Governors to stop the planned July 14th rate hike. So that is the first call to action that we can help you do and send a letter. And then the Postal Regulatory Commission is considering lowering the USPS's rate authority during a review that's coming up in the month of July. And so we want to let the PRC know why these rate increases have been so detrimental, how it's killing the industry, how it's having all these, creating all these challenges. That's number 2. We can give you sort of the tools to connect with the Postal Regulatory Commission and give them your feedback there. And then lastly, we are in the process of introducing legislation in the coming weeks that will give that postal regulator, the Postal Regulatory Commission, number 3 there, give them the tools to have a better check and balance with the Board of Governors and with the postmaster, so that we don't go down this road again where there's not any sort of regulator checking this saying, hey, you're raising rates too fast, you're killing your volume. There ought to be additional factors that they're looking at, and we want to have the regulator have greater tools to be able to sort of keep that in check. And so those are 3 things. The Board of Governors, which is coming up in the coming days, that's a letter you could send this week. And there's actually a digital portal we can send where you can actually click an email to do that. Beth has put in the chat there, Beth, with Rebel Communication, to text mail to 52886. You can do that right now. And so all these tools are available. I'm happy, David, to folks who are interested, give them the opportunity to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah, let us know in the chat, folks, if you want any of these tools. I pulled the poll down. We will follow up with all of you, Kevin and his team, that expressed interest there. I see my friend Joe Marie saying they'd like to connect offline to talk more about this in detail. If you want to have one-on-one conversations, I'm sure Kevin and the team can arrange that. So let us know there in the chat. Gerry, I'm going to come back to you now with a question, and then I want to get into rapid-fire Q&A here. So, Gerry, kind of the overall question I have for you, given your position there at Sylvamo, and as you look out over the industry and direct mail specifically, give us some examples of how you're seeing mail as still relevant and valuable for the brands out there that are reaching out to engage their customers and prospects. Do you have some data on that or some examples that you can share with us today?
Sure. And the first thing I'd say, though, is for people who are uncomfortable moving forward on this, try being a halfway decent public speaker and speaking alongside a 4-time former congressman, and you look pretty poor in comparison. So go ahead and make the leap forward. So I've watched the chats come through, and the chats are very positive on direct mail and the response rate on direct mail, right? So we all know direct mail's got really high open rates, incredible high response rates, and typically results in a very high ROI. So 85% of marketers agree direct mail drives the best conversion rate, okay? And 85 also agree it delivers the best response rate of all channels. How do you put these two together? Okay, 90% of direct marketers believe that direct mail and a digital combination has extremely positive effects, right? So the ability to get very specific on what is taking place. And the ROI is driven around three different areas for direct mail, very tangible, very personalized, and very distinct. So to Kevin's point on a generation of people who are actually going to the mailbox again and opening their mail, folks who had not participated in a mail previously, the physical connection, the tactile experience with mail is a big deal. The ability to personalize this down specifically to whatever your interest is highly tangible, and it's distinct. So in this world of digital overload, Kevin talked about a little bit, text, email, TikTok, whatever you're going to do. This is a different way to communicate with people. It's a slower pace. It allows you to be very concise with your message and how you move forward with it.
You're getting encouragement there, Gerry, from the group. They're all saying you're doing a great job. So keep at it. And I want to get into real time. I want to get into the real time Q&A here, folks. So now is your time to be what I would call selfish. Okay, please put all of your questions into the chat. Anything that's on your mind, anything you've ever wanted to ask in this regard, or about the industry on the whole that Kevin or Gerry can help give clarity to. Even if you've already asked it and we haven't answered it yet, please put it back in the chat. I know there's some open questions here in the Q&A as well as in the chat, and I'm going to try to get to as many of those as I possibly can. So let's go rapid fire here. Gentlemen, the first for you, Kevin, question that came in: does the post office realize that raising rates and making direct mail more difficult to employ is actually speeding up the demise of several industries?
I don't think they do, and that's part of the problem, right? And I think their premise is that this mail is going to decline no matter what, and that the rates aren't really impacting the decline of that. And we know in industry, we've talked to customers that, we've seen in the chat here that the rates are affecting decisions particularly when you're a big volume mailer, right? When you're looking at sending millions of pieces, and particularly on prospecting mail, right?
Yeah.
And it's going to have a long-term impact, because prospecting mail, if that's not done, then that means your repeat customer list is going to shrink, which is also going to reduce mail volume there as well. And by the way, one of the things that the USPS is trying to do is go compete for package volume. And if you're not getting the direct mail in the catalogs, then you're going to be sending less packages, right? There's that mail multiplier effect. And so I think that's one of the real challenges we've had, is helping them understand how those policies are really impacting industry.
All right, I'm going to go for a rapid fire answer here from both of you. Gerry, you first. Are you bullish or bearish on the long-term viability of the USPS? Gerry, you first.
Well, Sylvamo only makes uncoated free sheet paper across the globe, and a third of everything that goes through the Postal Service is on our product. So we're very bullish, right? We've got a lot of work to do, and part of this starts right now. So there's a lot of questions coming on the chat. What do we do next? How do we work together on this? This is not a one-time event for us, right? We've got committed people in DC. We've got great experts who work on the Hill every day to drive this. We're very bullish.
All right, Kevin.
I agree with Gerry. I think the future can be really bright for the Post Service, but changes need to be made, right? And if they continue down the path they're on, then yeah, that's not encouraging. And we know where this is going to end up. But if they do that, that's why what we're doing is so critical. And I think we're starting to see change. We're starting to see the Postal Regulatory Commission has been starting to speak out. We met with them, by the way, in person. That's another thing we do, is we sit down with these people and share these comments directly. There's many different tools we're using. We met with the Postal Regulatory Commission in the spring. They are very concerned. They're speaking out about it. You're seeing members of Congress speaking out about it. We had some 20 senators sign a letter a few weeks ago complaining about some of these policies. We had a number of key members of the House write a letter in recent weeks complaining about the rates themselves. And so all this work we're doing, lighting all these fires, it's all this sort of echo chamber of the things we're trying to do to build it. I think in doing that, I think the Postal Service is bright. And let's just say this is a vital service. It's the only entity that can go the last mile, right? The private sector is not going to go the last mile to rural America, these hard to reach places. And the Postal Service is part of the American fabric. It's in the Constitution, right? Ben Franklin, of all people, was the original postmaster.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yep.
So this is part of our heritage and our history, but it's not an arcane, antiquated entity. And what we need to do is get it tooled and ready for the challenges of the future to continue to deliver for the American people. And simply going the trajectory we're going is not working. And that's why we are fighting so hard to make it be that bright future, that bearish future that Gerry and I think it can be.
So, Kevin, there's so many questions here. I don't know if we're going to be able to get through all of them. It feels like this is going to have to be a multi-part event here, but let me try to hit as many as I can. This is a question from Shannon, similar to what you and I spoke about earlier this morning, Kevin, in our pre-meeting. Will the post office have to hit break even financially before rate increases stop or slow? What is the end goal? Give Shannon some perspective on that.
No, they don't. I think what policies need to change is we need to focus on growing volume, right? You can focus on getting more revenue from getting more mail back in the system. So revenue is a critical part of this, but pushing, you can just think about it again from a business standpoint. If you double your rates on everything, yeah, you might get more volume, might get more revenue for a bit, but long term, you're killing your volume, and a lot of that volume doesn't come back once it's gone and found new methods. And so it's really critical that I think there's a sea change from focused on rates related to revenue and focused on volume related to revenue. And volume means a vibrant postal service that needs postal carriers, that needs post offices in rural community. But as volume goes down, you're going to see a lot of other pain, right? You're going to see closed post offices. You're going to see lots of things people don't like. So that to me is the focus.
I see Jill saying, hey, I've got not a question, but a comment. We should all be advocates of the mail system. Let's mail mom a Mother's Day card, mail a birthday card, send your electric bill payment through the mail. Yes, those are all things that we can do. I see another comment here saying, this has been so informative, and I would love to see this type of information every other month or so to help not only grow memberships and partnerships, but spread education. Folks just don't know what to do. Every printer out there should be equipping their entire workforce with this information. Thank you, thank you. Wayne is saying, do you believe that the direction of the USPS can change as long as the current PMG is in place? Kevin, your thoughts on that?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, there's a lot of concern about the PMG and sort of him being focused on one solution and not listening to others. So our hope is that the pressure that he's feeling, that the Board of Governors is feeling, will help them make the changes we need to do to solve this. The postmaster himself, ultimately that's up to the Board of Governors, right? And what they want to do and whether they want to make a change. But our goal is to educate and inform them and help them feel that pressure so that they start changing these policies.
Please, folks, continue to ask your questions. I know we're running up here close to the end of the event today, but don't stop. Please continue dropping those questions into the chat. In just a moment, we're going to announce the lucky winners today and give both gentlemen here an opportunity to say a bit more in terms of what the next steps are that you can take. But Kevin, I think we all know, most of us know, that tonight there is a presidential debate. And one of the questions that I saw come in is around if a new administration does take over, do you see any changes potentially coming into play because of a new administration?
Well, it's certainly possible, right? The president appoints the members of the Board of Governors. There will be vacancies. There will be opportunities for different governors to be placed on the board. I doubt Postal will come up in tonight's debate forum. But I think the question you're asking, David, is one which is, as Congress changes and the president changes from time to time, that will change policy and direction. And I think, look, if the president of the United States, the current president or the future president, were to say to the postmaster, I don't like what you're doing with this, you got to change this, you're killing this service, and they put pressure on them, that's the biggest lever of all, right? I mean, the president, while the postmaster doesn't directly work for him, the board does. And I think ultimately getting the White House and either party more involved in this is one of our goals as well. Absolutely.
All right, folks, I'm going to announce the winners here, and then I'm going to take a few more questions as quickly as possible. So if you turn your attention to the screen, here we go. We have got the names here. Cameron, I'm probably going to mangle the last name, so forgive me. Cameron Leclerc, Dan Kalupa, Holly Crisato, Audrey James, Jeff Myers, Jill T, John Miglouch, Karen W, Michael L, and Stephanie Brennan. If you are the lucky winners, please, if you're here, drop a note there into the chat, and we will ensure that you get taken care of and you get your special gift today. Kevin, I want to make sure that folks know where to connect with you before we get into the next set of questions here. I'm going to bring up your socials here. So how should folks get connected to you beyond what they've expressed there in the chat?
Yeah, so you can go to our Instagram page, our Facebook page. We have a big Facebook engagement. So for folks who are on Facebook, go to facebook.com/USPosted, us posted at Instagram, on Twitter as well. So following us on social media. most importantly, go to our website, go to keepusposted.org and take action. Give us your information or engage with us so we can send you these calls of action. You can take action today on some of these initiatives. And then, David, I think for folks whose companies want to be involved, David, I don't know if you were going to collect, I think on that poll you did.
We did.
What's the best way to facilitate that? Getting those companies engaged with us, because we would be happy to set up a call with your company, talk about corporate sponsorships and engagement. Resources are you couldn't have an hour-long session without mentioning resources. Resources are an important part of what we do, so we're looking for corporate sponsorships for our ability to carry the message and do the advertising we need. And so think about whether your company would be. You can go to our site and see the companies that are involved now. We'd love to put your logo on that site and have you join the team. So there's things you can do as an individual by going to our site and passing. You can send our link around to your colleagues, but also really critically, we need more companies like Sylvamo, which has been such a leader to help us here. We need more companies like that to join the effort. And so please engage with us in that way. Dave, what's the best way in your mind to do that?
Yeah, so folks, you have almost 100 who are ready to speak to you in terms of their organization wanting to take the next step. So there's going to be a lot of follow-up there. I see some folks looking for you on LinkedIn and the organization on LinkedIn, Kevin. So
if I could speak to that real quick, it's Beth Dozier. So as a nonprofit, Keep Us Posted is really focused on consumer. We elevate consumer voices to save the mail. Yet, as we've discussed, we are funded, our resources are provided by industry, and we are fighting for industry. So from a PR perspective, Keep Us Posted does not have a LinkedIn profile page. However, all of our content is shareable via email, all social platforms, and LinkedIn. So Keep Us Posted is more, from a PR perspective, is more focused on consumer. We keep consumers engaged in this effort because their voices are important, but they aren't affiliated with industry. So we toe a line, right, where we are bringing consumers into this battle with us because we need the voices of everyday Americans. But we also proceed, very cautiously in, making sure that we protect that relationship with, as a consumer advocate. So we are, public-private partnership, basically.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And I know we're hitting the end of the time here, and both gentlemen have to run. But keep the questions coming. I'm going to leave the chat open even after we end the session in case there is additional follow-up that you all want. I don't want to end prematurely here if you still have questions. I see a question from Ruben, and Kevin, I'm going to throw this at you, and I know we have to wrap up here shortly. Is your organization partnered in any way with the Postal Customer Council, PCC? Do you know?
I don't think we are, but I saw that in the chat here too. I'd be happy, Ruben, to talk to you about that. And we're always looking for, we know we're not the only advocacy group out there, right? And part of our goal is to link up with others who are focused on the same thing, share resources. And all this is about sort of, this is organizing, right? This is public. And so we're happy to do that. And Ruben, we'll find a way to link up afterwards. David can get us connected.
Folks, I see that many of you are asking for the recording. Please drop your best email into the chat, yourself or a colleague, if you want a recording sent to you. Please do that right now in the chat. Drop your best email for yourself or a colleague if you want a recording sent to you. Also, before I let you all go, before I let the two gentlemen go here, was this helpful to you? Please give us some feedback there in the chat if you enjoyed this. But not only that, got value out of it and were inspired or have been inspired to take action. So Gerry and Kevin, I'm going to ask you to give us one last piece of advice before we part ways. Gerry, I'm going to start with you, sir. Your closing words and thoughts.
Sure. Participation, to Kevin's point, this is about all of us working together. We're either all going to win or lose together. There are no individual components in here. So at Sylvamo, we're committed to working throughout the chain for the Postal Service and getting this right for all of us. So happy to continue to participate and hear for anybody who wants to speak with us.
Before I go to Kevin, I want to know in the chat, would you like us to do more of these sessions? I'm putting words in Kevin's mouth, but I'm sure that he'd be happy to engage further and have additional fireside chats like this, answer your questions, and keep you posted as to what he and his organization are doing. So if you would like more of these, drop something like, yes, more sessions, please. Yeah, there. Thank you, David. Holly says, yes, very informative. Please let us know there in the chat. That feedback is super important. All right, I'm coming over to you, Kevin, now for your final piece of advice and words as we close the event today.
Yeah, David, and on that last point, we're happy to do this again and keep people updated on where we are. But if you want to stay engaged and you want, we can join our organization, because that's the best way for us to connect with you, your colleagues, and continue to do this kind of stuff. But we'll certainly, David, and for the folks at Sylvamo, we can, make this a regular occurrence as well. I would say to that end, and to Gerry's point, the policies that are being made are partly being made because of complacency in who the policies are affecting. And so if we don't stand up for ourselves, no one else will, right? And we're not only standing up for our companies and our colleagues and our industries, we're standing up for the American people. Because at the end of the day, they're going on about their lives. They expect that the people they elect, the people that lead this country, will protect the services that they're important to them. And so the American folks, the Postal Service is always going to be there. And now they're starting to say, why isn't my mail delivered every day, right? Why is my mail take so long to get there? Why are these rates keep going up? Why is this whole thing being mismanaged? And they're asking tough questions, and they're waking up to the frogs are waking up, so to speak. And what we need to do is organize and be engaged. And if the people on this call who know the issues, who are day-to-day working in industry, if we're not willing to financially get involved, if we're not willing to take a little bit of our time, think about an average American who's not involved in postal industry, who just wants their mail to arrive on time, who wants affordable mail. They're not going to have time to engage either. So I think if not us, then who? And these policies are being made partly because we have not been standing up for ourselves, and that is changing.
I saw in the chat earlier, someone said, "Preach it, brother." And I think that is an appropriate way to summarize how we all feel about the importance of this mission. And to Gerry and the Sylvamo team, I know there have been so many of you that have worked very hard to prepare the event today, so many names behind the scenes. And Kevin, on your side, your staff and your team, we just are so appreciative of your time. But most importantly, to all of you who are here, who have spent your time with us today in this important discussion, your time, your participation, and your commitment to helping our industry think about these challenges and to find new ways of engaging in this important discussion. Well, we're just so appreciative of that. Thank you, thank you, thank you, because this is an important industry that we and our children and our children's children need to keep alive in order to continue to enjoy the benefits of a USPS that we all know we deserve and that the country needs. So in that spirit, let's keep this conversation going. Kevin and Gerry, I know you both have to go, but what I'm going to do, folks, is I'm going to stick around for another few moments as the questions come in. Please continue to send those questions in. We'll use that for either the next discussion. Kevin, we'll feed that over to you and to your team. And folks, if you want to take a next step with Kevin, let us know there in the chat. So we'll officially sign off here, but I'll stick around for another few minutes and let the chat come in. Kevin, thank you for your time. Gerry, thank you as well. We appreciate you.
Thank you, everybody.
Happy to participate.
All righty. Thanks, gentlemen. Aaron, I see your note here, very informative panel with a new perspective for us to think about and how we help our customers. Aaron, I'm glad. I'd be curious what stood out to you most, Aaron, there. Cindy, you're welcome. I see you want the recording as well. Betsy saying bravo. Thank you, Betsy. Robert is saying it's great to know that we are rallying to fix the postal issue. I've learned from my own efforts how hard it is to be heard in Washington when something is wrong. Fantastic. And Beth is here to answer questions. I know we only have you for a few more minutes, Beth. Thank you for that.
No problem.
If you have yes, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say no problem. And I would also emphasize that Keep Us Posted has been fighting in Washington and across the country since 2021. We are directly responsible for media coverage, involving all of the failure of the Delivering for America plan, the passage of legislation in 2022 that Kevin mentioned. And it's been a great ride. And honestly, it's picking up momentum where, again, as I mentioned before, we're really a public affairs campaign. And the American public is engaged with us. And a lot of the content that we share on social media is about the value of mail and telling that story, to which people organically respond, how do we fix it? And it's just been amazing. And we're so grateful to have, the support of everyone on this webinar. So thanks so much.
Thank you all. And thank you for that as well, Beth. Tim is saying, great job, Beth. Robert wants a recording, no problem. Lita saying, so informative and inspiring. Yes, fantastic. All right, folks, I'm going to give you another 5 to 10 seconds, and then I will bring us to an official close. Thank you all for being here today. I see a number of you still here in the room. We appreciate your time. You know how to follow up with us, and we will be reaching out to those of you who are interested in taking next steps with Beth, Kevin, and the team. So with that, I'm signing off here. Have a great rest of the day, everyone. Bye-bye.